Yes, this week, Parashat Metzorah, we talked about a very specific pasuk. In the beginning of the Parsha, we find when the Cohen comes to see the Metzorah and see if he was cured, the Torah uses a very interesting language to tell us what has happened to this Metzorah.
Yeah, it says, instead of saying that the Metzorah, the person, was cured from the Tzarat, it says that the Tzarat was cured from the person. Very strange way of putting things. We tried to really understand what that means. What does Tzarat really mean?
Exactly. What does Tzarat mean? And what does Nega'im mean in general? Because this automatically connected us to Shabbat Hagadol, to Pesach, because interestingly, the Makot on Mitzrayim are also called Nega'im. So, is a Nega'im a disease? Is it a plague? What is this Nega'im? We discussed that and a very important message that Parsha has for us for what's going on today in our day-to-day life. Hope you enjoy it. So yes, this week, Parashat Metzorah, Shabbat Hagadol, Erev Pesach. What I want to talk about is in the beginning of the Parasha. In the beginning of the Parasha, we find the situation in which the Metzorah is. We've talked about the Metzorah last week in Parashat Tazria, and now he thinks he has been cured from his Tzarat, and he wants to go back into camp. He wants to bring his sacrifices to the Beit HaMikdash in order to come back to society and continue living his life normally. And when he wants to do that, the Cohen comes along and sees him. And then the Torah says something very interesting. The way the Torah phrases it is very interesting. The Torah says that the Cohen comes and he sees that the Tzarat itself was cured from the person. And when you try to understand what the Torah is saying, when you look at the grammar, it probably should have been that the person was cured from the Tzarat. Or if you, in Hebrew, it should have said, Why is the emphasis on the Tzarat? What is going on? What is the Torah trying to tell us? Why does it say Tzarat? As if the Tzarat itself is cured, not the person, that the Tzarat is cured. So what is the Torah trying to tell us in this pasuk over here at the beginning of the Parsha?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think maybe to understand this, we need to understand the word Tzarat. Because as you said, you called it the disease, and it's very strange that the disease itself is cured. The person is cured. But maybe Tzarat doesn't exactly mean a disease. Maybe it means something else. What is that word Tzarat? We see it over and over. The whole concept of Tzarat is called Nega'im. What is that word? We know that word from elsewhere. Naga is something that was touched. To touch something. We know even there was the battle between Yaakov and the Malach, and when the Malach touches him, right? He naga bekaf yerech Yaakov. He touches him. And this raises a question. What is naga, touching, and nega, which means a disease or some sort of disease? How are they connected? But I think if we look carefully at the different places where this concept of nega shows up, because we see it here in Tzarat, but we see it elsewhere. For example, when talking about the Makot, it says before Makat Bechort, Od nega echad avi. It's talking about the Makot. This is one more nega. So what is a nega? And I think that the connection isn't coincidental. I think that nega is not just any disease. It's a specific type of disease. And as we know with Tzarat, this is a very strange disease, a disease that the Cohen comes to cure, right? We're talking about something that's sort of a spiritual disease. What Tzarat is when Hashem touches you. Not necessarily in a positive way in this sense, but Hashem could ignore the fact that you're losing yourself, you're sinking deeper and deeper in your evil way of looking at things and looking at people and talking Lashon Hara and do nothing about it. But because of Hashem caring about you, because of Hashem giving you that opportunity, He touches you. He gets involved. He does something and you feel touched, first of all, in a painful way, in a negative way, in something that seems like a disease. But in reality, it's Hashem waking us up and giving us this opportunity to fix ourselves, to do tshuva, to cure ourselves. The same, by the way, with the makot. These are nega'im. It's a moment for Paro to wake up and say, you're right. I should stop doing this. I should let them go. It's an opportunity. It's Hashem touching him with painful things, with various punishments. But it's not just a punishment. It's not because of what he did in the past. It's a moment for him to wake up and change. It's Hashem interfering in a way that will result in change. And as we have a pasuk in Shmuel that says, "V'hochachtiv b'shevet barzel uvenigei bnei adam," that I will lehochiach. Lehochiach is to give musar, is to fix his ways, is to try to fix Am Yisrael, right? To try to correct someone. B'shevet barzel. Shevet is like a staff that you're hitting to fix, to wake them up. Uvenigei bnei adam, meaning again, when Hashem is getting involved to help us, to wake us up, to bring us to a better place. So he's nogea banu, but he's there to correct us. And maybe if we understand that, we can understand the pasuk here. Because maybe what it's saying is the following thing. Tzarat isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's an amazing opportunity of Hashem touching you, of Hashem interfering with what's going on and not letting you continue to sink down. But it's up to you. When Hashem touches you, when you get that tzarat, do you go to the Cohen? Do you go through this process? Do you fix your ways? And if you do, this tzarat itself is cured. V'nirpa tzarat. The tzarat is not anymore a negative thing, because now it was what brought you back. It was Hashem touching you and calling you over and bringing you back home. And that's what the pasuk is saying. Sometimes challenging things come upon us, but the question is, do we see them just as bad things that happen? Or do we see them as Hashem getting involved, touching us sometimes in a way which feels a little bit painful, but it's a wake-up call, and we can cure that tzarat and turn it into a positive thing, in something which really brings us closer to a Kadosh Baruch.
Very good, very good. You know, it's interesting you mentioned the pasuk by Yetziat Mitzrayim, by Makat Bechort. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Od nega echad avi al Paro, that just one more nega I want to give to Paro, because, you know, if I ask you, Yitzi, who was the first person in Tanakh to get nega'im, to get this kind of diseases directly from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it was Paro, not Paro from Sefer Shmot, but Paro from Sefer Bereshit. Paro that took Sarah from Avraham in Parashat Lech Lecha. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in response, the Torah says, Vayinaga Hashem et Paro nega'im gdolim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu struck Paro with big nega'im. And again, it's hard to translate this to diseases or something like that, because nega is much more than that. Because like you said, we find the concept of nega also not in terms of a disease like in Paro or by Metzorah, but also in Makot Mitzrayim, the plagues on Mitzrayim. It's Shabbat Hagadol, Erev Pesach, we're all cleaning and working towards Pesach. All the Makot were also Nega'im. And like you said, this pushes us to the place where we have to understand Nega'im is something greater than just a disease, something greater than just something natural that goes on a person and causes them harm. There's something greater than that. And like you said, sometimes when something terrible happens, you have to see the hand of God out of the terrible thing. You have to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu touching the person specifically out of that terrible thing. That terrible thing happened because HaKadosh Baruch Hu touches that person. And then you ask yourself, what was that for? And obviously, we don't know Cheshbonot Shamayim. We do not know why HaKadosh Baruch Hu does the things he does. We don't know. We can never know. But we can somehow with ourselves try to figure out what we have to do better with ourselves. It's always a waking call. This is what we said so many times with the Rambam. When there's a war, that you have to blow the horns, you have to litkwa b'chatzatzot lashuv b'tshuva in order to remind Am Yisrael to do tshuva. Again, not because we know why these bad things are happening, but we do know that if we correct our ways, we are one step closer to making the situation better, to healing the situation, to recovering from the situation. And very interesting, the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, in this pasuk over here in Parashat Metzorah, this is how he explains this pasuk. He says, Ve'hineh nirpa nega hatzarat min hatzarua. Says the Or HaChaim that this means that the nega hatzarat has been cured. Why? Min hatzarua, not from the tzarua, but because of the tzarua. Why? Because the tzarua did tshuva, because the tzarua took upon himself to correct his way. He wanted to redeem himself. He wanted himself to heal himself internally, spiritually. So that's what helped the Tzarat be cured. But that's what the Tzarat did. The Tzarat cured him. The Tzarat didn't only hurt him, but the Tzarat also cured him, because the Tzarat helped him come back to where he was supposed to be. It helped him lashuv b'tshuva. And this is what the Or HaChaim says over here in a very short sentence. And maybe this is also links us right back to Pesach and to Makat Bechort, because there's a very interesting thing over there in Makat Bechort that only now this year I noticed. We had this crazy night this past Motzei Shabbos. Every single Jew, every single person in Eretz Yisrael and also around the world, we were just sitting down and looking at the clock as the seconds go by. When is this strike gonna happen? When is this nega gonna happen? And then out of nowhere, literally one of the greatest miracles of the 21st century, maybe of ever, HaKadosh Baruch Hu came, shielded us with our soldiers, with our technology, and protected us in such an unbelievable way. Even statistically, it was unbelievable. And you sit there and you say to yourself, is this what Am Yisrael felt during that night in Mitzrayim, that night where every single house of the Mitzrayim had somebody die in that house? En bait asher en bo met. There was not one family, mi bechor paro ve'ad bechor ha'behema. Every single firstborn of the Mitzrayim was killed. And yet every single Jewish family, every single family from Am Yisrael was saved. And why? And this is very interesting, because when you look in the psukim over there, you see, like you said, first of all, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I want to give one more nega, and that's what the Torah uses. But then listen to this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe, how does Am Yisrael protect themselves? They have to go, as we know, bring the keves and bring the blood from the lamb, and then with the blood, they put it on the doorposts on the side and on the top, ala mezuzot, and on the mushkof. They put the blood over there. But if you look in the Torah, if you look at the Hebrew language, you know what word the Torah is using? The Torah doesn't say v'samtem et hadam ala mezuzot. That's not what the Torah says. The Torah uses the word vehiga'atem. You shall reach with the blood to the mezuzot and to the mashkof. The same root of nega. And this, when I saw this week, it just blew me away. HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling us, I am touching you. I'm bringing this nega for you to wake up, to come and climb and reach up to me in order to touch me. Shuvu elai v'ashuva elechem. I'm coming to you. I'm giving this to you so that you will wake up and use this opportunity, use this nega, and realize that I'm touching you in order to do tshuva, in order to take that blood. The blood, as we've said so many times, resembles the brit, the covenant with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and reach out to me to touch me. Viga'atem ela mezuzot, the same word. This is maybe the secret behind Makat Bechorot, that leil shimurim that Am Yisrael had. They were sitting down. Moshe Rabbeinu promised, kechatzot alayla, wait until midnight. And Am Yisrael, with the belts, with the shoes, they were ready to go from the evening already. And they were just looking at their clocks. They were looking at the watches, if they had any. They were looking at the time go by and waiting to that chatzot alayla. And then suddenly it happened in 1 second. All of the Bechorot of Mitzrayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took care of them. And Am Yisrael were saved because they reached up to those mezuzot. They reached up with that covenant, with that blood. This is what Am Yisrael did over there. Maybe this is a big message that we have to take from this week's Parasha. We have to take from Pesach, from the Leil Shimurim we just had past Motzei Shabbos, and this Leil Shimurim we will be having in a Mitzvah Shem. We'll be having a lot more of these Shimurim from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sending these Nega'im, not only diseases, but also plagues onto us, because He wants us to reach out. V'higa'atem ela mezuzot. He wants us to reach out to Him. He wants us to do the tshuva. Maybe this is what we should be taking out of this week's parasha, out of this time. Try to strengthen our ways. Try to be a little bit better and climb and try to reach out back towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Beautiful, beautiful. Turning the nega into the vehiga'atem. And I think there is also another interesting thing actually in this pasuk, because the first word you read is Vehine nirpa nega tzarat. Vehine, we've mentioned this in the past, is a surprise. The Cohen seems so surprised that the Metzorah is cured. Why is he surprised that the Metzorah is cured? Because if you think about it, the Metzorah didn't do anything to be cured. He just left, and he didn't take any medicine. He didn't put any cream on, and it's just suddenly gone. Just as it appeared, it disappears. But I think this connects to what we were saying. If what the nega is Hashem calling me, then maybe the cure is me saying, oh, I'm being called. Maybe I'm being called in a painful way. I'll separate myself now a little bit from all the noise around me and just be together with that calling. And that time together, just me and that calling, is the cure itself. And when that time is up, comes the Cohen, and suddenly the nega isn't there anymore. Because as we said, the nega has turned, has been converted, has been cured into something positive that brought me closer to tshuva, into touching and reaching out back to HaKadosh Baruch.
Very good, very good. Emir Hashem, Bezrat Hashem, let's hope that out of all the tshuva that Am Yisrael has been doing for the past few months, and all the good deeds and amazing, wonderful deeds that we see going on for the past few months over here in Eretz Yisrael and around the world, Emir Hashem, we should see the full redemption out of this festival of redemption, Chag HaGeulah. We should see Mashiach Tzidkenu come very soon, very fast, together with all the hostages, and cure all the injured, and Emir Hashem, see Binyan Beit HaMikdash be built very soon, and even this year already, Bizocha Lakriv Korban Pesach B'moado Bimkomo, out of full Tahara, and Shkoyach Yitzi.
Amen, amen. Shkoyach Tuvia, Chag Sameach, Chag Kasher v'Sameach to you and to all of Am Yisrael.
חג כשר ושמח לגאולה שלמה במהרה בימינו to all of Am Yisrael very, very soon. And Emir Hashem, we'll talk again next week.